From the searing heat of Spain to the iconic Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, welcome to the Canadian Grand Prix. McLaren dominated the triple header and remained the team to beat, while the fallout from the Max Verstappen-George Russell moment in Spain continues with the four-time world champion 1 point away from a race ban. And here are the driver standings. Max Verstappen then tumbling somewhat down the order away from the leading two in third position, and out in front Oscar Piastri, P1. Your world champion leadership at the moment, 10 points ahead of his teammate. And look at that, Lance Stroll, P12. He's back in action after missing Spain with injury here in his home race at the Canadian Grand Prix. Welcome along to weekend warm-up. Welcome down to the paddock. Lawrence Barretto, Davide Valsecchi alongside me to bring you all the action from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Before, though, we look ahead to Spain and discuss all the talking points that are to come through this weekend. Let's take a look back, shall we, at the race that was in Spain.
Welcome to Barcelona. It's race day at the Spanish Grand Prix. We're racing to turn number one.
This is how legends are made.
Max Verstappen is going to roar around Lando Norris and take second place in the Grand Prix.
Ferrari mean business.
Hold on a minute. Through goes Hulkenberg.
This is a battle that keeps on giving.
We're getting so many moves at corners we don't normally see.
Norris is bringing it to Verstappen.
Slam dunk move, and it's a McLaren 1-2. Oh, off the road goes Kimi Antonelli. Brings out the safety car. Verstappen comes into the pit lane.
Why are we on the hard?
That was the only option.
He knows now he's under pressure.
It's going to be hard on the restart. Oh, Verstappen nearly drops it. Charles Leclerc goes through.
Jesus, wrong bit to me.
Can George Russell make it by?
You did the same.
Verstappen jumps over the road.
Can you let Russell through, please?
Wait, what the
Oh, Max Verstappen into the side of George Russell.
I cannot believe what I just seen.
Hulkenberg on Lewis Hamilton to take P6. What is going on right now?
Oh, yeah, baby.
10-second penalty for Verstappen. It's unacceptable driving.
Drama everywhere you look. No dramas for Oscar Piastri, who wins the Spanish Grand Prix.
Couldn't have asked for more. Thank you very much, everybody.
What a Grand Prix. Oscar looking worthy.
Oh, goodness me. Just when you thought the script was written for the Spanish Grand Prix, it's torn up in those final 6 laps of pure drama. Lawrence, Davide, great to see you both here in Canada. Lawrence, looking ahead then to Canada after Spain. What's the paddock talking about?
Oh, there's loads of great stories. Obviously, we had that McLaren dominance last time out in Spain. We obviously had that moment that we just saw Max and George, and that they're still in the TV pen now having a chat to the media. I'm really intrigued to see what Max has got to say, I think, about what happened there. We heard a little bit from George as well, given his view on that. There are so many talking points heading into this weekend, and I think Formula One always gets even more exciting when you've got the off-track stuff that matches the on-track action.
You'll be hearing from Max Verstappen in the show. We'll be getting into Red Bull. For now, though, Davide, let's focus on McLaren. We last saw you, of course, in Imola. The momentum has firmly swung Oscar Piastri's way. 10 points is now the buffer to his teammate Lando Norris. Lando cannot afford to let that get out any further, can he, if he's to remain in contention?
Yeah, you're right. Very important race for them because Piastri is delivering every single weekend the result. While Norris sometimes seems that he has lost a bit the speed that shown on last year. But we need to consider that they are only 10 points, and victory to the second place, they are already 7th. So, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's important for, also for the attitude of the driver. Sometimes Norris get a bit down and depressed and seems not very confident. Important for him to be on pole on Saturday and try to win the race here on Sunday. I'm going to enjoy the battle between them this weekend, and I hope that someone else, like Russell probably here, or Verstappen usually this season, or probably Leclerc, can fight for them for the victory.
When are we going to see them make contact on track? They've played it so clean, so safe so far with each other. They've both had battles with Max Verstappen, but with each other they're racing hard but fair and cleanly. But it's got to come as the stakes mount even higher.
Yeah, both Lando and Oscar have said at some point it is going to happen, and they seem really oddly relaxed about it. The team have obviously gone through their protocols of what they're going to do eventually when that happens, and Zach and Andrea have said that they expect it to happen as well. it is slightly strange that we haven't seen them go up against each other. But I think that's more down to the fact that Oscar's just done such a great job of late. And Lando, bounced back in Monaco, really good confidence win for him. I think what was significant for him over in Spain is he didn't get down like he normally does after getting beaten by Oscar. Like, mentally, he seemed quite strong from that perspective. And to Davide's point, it is only 10 points, and I think Lando sees this is the long game, and it only takes one DNF. That would swing the other way if Lando goes to win. So I think the way that Lando handled that defeat in Spain, moreover than the other defeats he's had this year, are significant. But there will come a point when they're going into turn one. Let's wait, could be here, where they are fighting for the same piece of track. And one of them, when it's getting spicy, is going to have to not give way.
But equally, if there's a Lando Norris DNF or a finish outside the points, suddenly, with an Oscar Piastri win, that's a 35-point lead. That's more than a race win. It kind of feels like the swing at the moment is really crucial between those two drivers, and it's a battle that we are going to focus on this weekend. As Lawrence mentioned, teams drivers are talking to the press today, of course, on Media Day on Thursday. The McLaren drivers are currently doing that right now, so we actually can't play those interviews in for you. We'll bring them to you tomorrow through the course of the weekend. Right now, though, let's hear from them post-Spain. This is after the Grand Prix last time out.
Oscar, congratulations. Looked like you managed that one perfectly out there today.
More or less, I guess. Obviously a great start and good first stint meant that I could set up the rest of the race a bit easier. Getting through all the traffic was really tough, and the dirty air from 3 seconds, 4 seconds back starts to already make a big difference, and I felt like it was difficult to get through that at points, but I feel like when I needed to push and unleash the pace, then I could do a good job. And obviously the safety car at the end, I felt like I managed that pretty well, and then I knew I had the pace, so a good weekend.
Lando, an eventful afternoon out there, the late safety car to contend with as well. P2 at the end, can we get your assessment on that?
I'd say a reasonably straightforward race, but I've been a bit more interesting with Max doing the three-stop. His pace was pretty strong, to be honest, and that was it. I try to catch up to Oscar at certain points, but as soon as I get within 4 seconds, the dirty air just starts to hurt too much. So then you kind of get hotter tires, you start to lose downforce, you push a bit more, you slide more, and it's just a bit of a horrible spiral. So, nothing much. I think the pace was strong, just dirty air hurts too much.
What do you take from the weekend as a whole? I know after qualifying yesterday you said there were just a couple of little things you wanted to tidy up. So what do you take from this weekend as a whole?
I mean, it's still a good weekend. I lost out to the better guy this weekend. He performed yesterday, and that gave him the advantage today. So nothing more than that. I know where I need to improve. I know what I need to do better. I feel confident that I can do it, but can't win them all, as much as I want to. It takes time to progress, and that's what I'm working on.
Thanks, Lando.
You can't help but notice there a slight difference in demeanour, and understandably so, of course. One man is P1, the other is P2. One man leads by 10 points, the other is 10 points behind. How does Lando Norris, therefore, Lawrence, react here?
I think he'll take a lot of confidence way back from his performance in Monaco. I think he kind of hinted at it, even though his demeanour didn't back what he was saying up, in that he did the best that he could on a weekend where he knew he wasn't the better driver, or he was beaten by the better driver. And I think that's probably what this championship's going to be decided on. It's on your bad weekends, how well can you kind of rack up the points and do the best job possible. I think Lando will feel that he is still the best driver in this field and that he can get on top of Oscar. What he's got to do is obviously hit straight back. He's got to iron out those little details that Mike was asking about and try and find a way to start in front of Oscar. Because I think as soon as he does that, he has that confidence and that air of lift about it to try and do the better job.
I think Laura and Lawrence, that qualify will be crucial for them. We never saw during the season an overtake made by them between each other in the track. Seems that every time one of the men qualify in front of the other, seems that he has a huge advantage. The race swapped during the position swap during the race in Miami because he had a bad start. Norris fighting with Verstappen, but crucial will be the qualifying, and the pressure for Saturday is going to raise up.
OK, we'll move on to Red Bull now, of course. We're expecting Max Verstappen, as ever, to be a contender, but he may well have to change his approach. 1 point off a race ban, and even if he does last until the end of the month, he'll be 3 points away from a race ban until October 27th. So a lot of racing to come for him to not pick up any more penalty points if he's not to serve a race ban. Let's take a look, though, at the incident in more detail, at what has brought us to this position here.
What is his tire?
That's the hard tire, Max.
Why? Why are we on a hard?
That was the only option. Max, can you let Russell through, please? Let Russell through.
No, I was ahead. Mate, but
My advice is to let him through.
wait, I was ahead. He just ran me off the road.
But that's the rules.
Good night, mate. Just past it.
All right, then. There's Max Verstappen in the garage now, sitting back in the car. A brand new weekend, a fresh outlook for him as well. 9 points there he lost, tumbling from P5 where he finished to ultimately P10 with a 10-second penalty. Let's say the championship comes down to less than 10 points. How will he regret this weekend? Do you think he does regret what happened? Was that kind of what the social media post that he issued on the Monday was about?
I think he'll be disappointed that it was a rare moment where we haven't really seen that kind of Max for a number of years, and I think he'll be disappointed that he let that red mist descend. I think that's potentially why we saw that reasonably immediate response the next day on social media. Will he come to regret it? No, because I think Max is really good at moving on really quickly, and as annoying as it is, and it possibly will be that might determine it, I think he's so good at just switching on and switching off rather and moving to the next race. So I think he'll come here, and actually I think it's going to energise him. And we saw, last year when he came to Canada off a bad weekend, weather dependent, of course, he was epic. And I just genuinely think that probably what's going to happen here is he's going to find a way to do a thing that Max has done so often. So that's kind of my read of it at the minute.
He's so good at compartmentalising, isn't he? Taking what's happening off track, what's happened last weekend, away and just getting in the car and getting it done. And you're right, when Max is on the back foot, that's when we tend to see some of the brilliance, like Brazil last year, for example. Davide, the red mist, as Lawrence put it, when that does descend and when you see these somewhat rare but moments, these flashpoints from him, is that a part of what makes him a great, what makes him a four-time world champ, right? You kind of can't have the brilliance, you can't have the Imola at turn one if you don't have these moments, or can they be separated and controlled?
No, 100% agree. I mean, he's so special, this man. He's four-time world champion also because of this. I mean, he's so extreme in everything he does in the track that sometimes you have also to take the bad stuff, that is this one. Probably now he regret it, but if we consider, probably he did it also because if it was Russell. I think with Russell, he has something special. That is my personal thought. I mean, against Alonso, probably didn't happen this chaos. With Russell, take it back, Russell. I don't know why, but probably with him there is this kind of relationship. But we need to consider that I was disappointed reading, he threw away 9 points for Red Bull. Yeah, but how many points he gained with magical stuff because of Max Verstappen? He's a great champion. Sometimes everyone in life makes mistake. He made one. That from my point of view on TV, Wow, it was an amazing battle. It was a great fun. Yeah, bad boy Max Verstappen, but was amazing.
It made for a very entertaining final 6 laps. Like, wherever you look at it, we certainly were glued to it. You've briefly mentioned, though, that Red Bull, he lost those 9 points for the team, but how many has he gained for them? And I just want to quickly touch on a source of the frustration. We saw many flashpoints there. The hard tyre. There goes Max Verstappen. The hard tyre, of course, that was put on the car. The moment with Charles Leclerc, then the moment with George Russell. It was building and building. Is another source of frustration more of an overarching issue in that he is operating as a sole driver for Red Bull at the moment? The second seat isn't quite there with Yuki Tsunoda. He's operating on his own. And, you know, the salt in the wound from the whole weekend, he never had to give the place back at all. So it was an operational issue as well.
Yeah, I think to Davide's point, Max has carried the team in a really positive way for a long time. And I think mentally that will obviously put a strain on you. And I think the fact that we saw him snap effectively shows that he is human. But I do think it was that build-up. We heard the frustration in his voice when he saw the hard tyres. He knew what word of pain he was going to be on at that restart, as we saw.
Probably the team underestimated the trouble at the pit stop. I mean, having the hard, Max Verstappen realized immediately, come on, why hard compound? Probably the team underestimated the trouble that the driver has at the restart with the hard compound.
And we saw how hard it was, right? Almost lost the car. Incredible car
that
control
save was unbelievable.
to catch it.
Yeah.
And at that point, he's probably gone, well, I told you so, guys.
Yeah.
I told you that this was going to happen. Then obviously he had to yield the place because the team asked him to do, which, as we found out later, he didn't have to do. I can understand why Max Verstappen, such a clever brain in the really heated moments, probably thought at this point in time, no, guys, I don't want to give up the place. He did what the team told him to do, which actually shows a bit of maturity there, I think, that he did it. Obviously frustrating that it didn't work out that way. But I do think it is a build-up to it. And look, it's been coming, hasn't it, that Red Bull are starting to fall back a little bit, and there's only so often that you can deliver those kind of magical results, because at the end of the day, McLaren are so powerful at the moment with the car that they've got and 2 drivers that operate in such a high limit. Max is starting for the first time this year to see that title genuinely slip away.
Yeah. Can I very quickly ask, can he change his approach to racing with the threat of a one penalty point and a 1 race ban to come?
I hope no, but it's tough for him. He's used to be aggressive and to fight a lot with the rivals and to be so extreme. 1 point away from the ban, I mean, he's going to risk a lot. And then he has 3 races to avoid mistakes. It's not easy in this condition, to be honest.
I mean, he can change it. I don't think he will. And I just think that's because that is the Max Verstappen that we've always seen, and that is what makes Max Verstappen so successful. And I think maybe in that final moment, that final 0.0001%, where maybe he has to make that split-second decision, maybe he will decide on the edge of caution. But no, I think he'll just go about racing. And I think we're probably going to see some quite brilliant performances from Max now over these next 2 races when it's so critical.
And worth noting, Arvid Lindblad has successfully been given a super license. They asked for an exception. The 17-year-old has been granted that. Very coincidentally, with Max Verstappen on the verge of a race ban, Arvid Lindblad now can race in Formula One, should he get the call-up. Okay, moving on then to Mercedes, on the other side of the fence, of course, with George Russell. George has said, look, I think he was trying to run me off the road, but he wasn't deliberately trying to crash into me. I'm not sure how those 2 things can tally, but I kind of get it. But George basically saying, if he does get that ban, it's not unjust. I guess he's reacting in the only way he can, kind of keeping that high ground in a sense. Your thoughts, though, on that response from George?
I mean, in theory, he's accrued a number of points that triggers a race ban. So I guess what George is saying is, ultimately, if he gets the ban, it's because he's done a number of things that kind of demand a ban, if that's what the rules are saying. I think what he was trying to say is that he wasn't being malicious. So he wasn't
it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to take him out or hurt him. It was just a moment of frustration that yielded that end result. So George's still annoyed, obviously, with what happened. But I think that's what he was trying to say, ultimately.
Yeah, and that I guess basically he gave George absolutely nowhere to go except for off the road or to crash into him. Other side of the Mercedes garage, Kimi Antonelli with a torrid triple header, DNF and a P18. He'll be hoping to bounce back here, of course, this, though, a new track for many of our rookies. And Mercedes generally expected to go a bit better here with slightly cooler temperatures, although we do have about 24 degrees forecast on race day, which we're very happy about because it was absolutely teeming down with rain this time last year. Davide, Ferrari. It's ebbing and flowing, isn't it? One day it's good, the next not so good. Lewis Hamilton saying in Spain that was, well, he said today that the car he was driving in Spain was one of the worst cars he's ever been in.
I was sorry to hear it, because we need to consider that the last two races, they were the best races for his teammate. Because Leclerc had the podium, almost a victory in Monaco. He was at the podium in Barcelona, okay, helped with Verstappen at the end with the safety car, but anyway, he was there with the race pace. While Hamilton is struggling. It's difficult to accept, because probably it's the best time for his teammate, and he's the hardest one for Lewis Hamilton. So it's not so easy also for the team to handle the situation.
And I think it was interesting today that Lewis's demeanour was actually a little bit more up after that difficult weekend in Spain. And he said that they discovered an issue actually after they talked in the TV pen. And that's almost a relief, because he had no idea, to your point, Laura, about why he was so slow, having been so strong or feel so confident in qualifying. So I think actually it's a big weekend for Lewis now, because if they did find an issue, he's going to be hoping that it flicks back in. And actually Ferrari have been building momentum of late, so I think it will be really critical when we reach the long runs in FP2, where he gets a feel for how the car feels then, and obviously in the race, because that's where he struggled a little bit more recently, whether or not that makes a difference.
They certainly have, and they've overtaken Mercedes in the constructors' standings as well to take back P2. And Lewis Hamilton saying, stop saying it, I'm here to stay, I'm driving Ferrari, I'm going to be here for a long time yet, today in the press conference. Of course, he was overtaken by Nico Hülkenberg right at the very end of that race. Nico Hülkenberg finishing a very high P5 for Sauber. Sauber, who of course will be becoming Audi in 2026. You'll see where I'm going with this in just a moment. And let's take a look at the 2026 calendar. That was a segue for you, wasn't it? Here it is then. It was announced just this week, and here it is, 24 races. Australia once again, the season opener 1 week earlier than it was this year, coming towards the start of March. Canada, as you can see, has moved a few weeks earlier, just comes 1 week after Miami. That, of course, for sustainability reasons, to avoid transatlantic crossings, making sure all the freight stays on this side of the pond before we head into a self-contained European summer from Monaco all the way through to Spain. Yes, a second Spain, and that is the brand new race in Madrid, a street circuit. That should be spectacular. Before, of course, Azerbaijan, Singapore, and 2 triple headers to end things. It is a stacked calendar, isn't it? And of course, we'll see Cadillac enter the fray as well. So we'll have 11 teams to contend with over those 24 races. Driver market, you're keeping your eyes and ears on that one. Any news to bring us?
So I understand that they've got the shortlist down to 4 drivers. I think they are evaluating driver pairings now. So that's the strategy they're taking. It's not just maybe about, let's put one person in this seat and then work out the second one. They're working about how that pairing or the pairings or possible pairings will work out. I still think the front runners are the ones with experience. So I still think it's Checo. I still think it's Valtteri Bottas. I think those are the ones that General Motors are thinking makes the most sense to help them hit the ground running, because they've got a lot of work to do. But they've not made a decision yet. So, you know, Checo, Valtteri, etc., they've got to wait and see.
They've all got it still to play for as well. I've seen Joe, Drugovich, Schumacher's name.
Schumacher.
Yeah, all in the mix. Davide, then your thoughts on the calendar, which you can see up on the screen now.
I'm interested to see Madrid also, because new circuit, street circuit. So sometimes the new circuit that they just built, they're very spectacular. We saw Las Vegas, what a show every time. So many overtakes at this long straight. So I'm interested to see how it's going to be the race there, also because it's the new one. So.
And as you saw as well, Canada, of course, a few weeks earlier into May. We may well see a bit of weather during the Grand Prix for next year. Let's take a look, though, at what makes this place so special.
This is Formula One in Montreal. It is the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. This has the potential to be very special. And the Canadian Grand Prix is go! This is Formula One at its absolute finest. Into the wall and out of the race! 12 spin there! Extraordinary!
That was a hell of a race.
He gets close!
You just came on the track so dangerous. Yeah. Copy this, we're on it.
They are stealing the race from us.
It is one of Formula One's favourite stops on the calendar. Max Verstappen wins the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yes, what a race, guys.
Canada then, and the return of home hero Lance Stroll. We've made our way down to Aston Martin, and Jess Hawkins is alongside us. Jess, lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
How are you enjoying Canada?
This is my first time here, actually.
I'm good, by the way. Yeah, sorry, thanks.
Good. First time here. I've been here before, but never to the race. Yeah, so
oh, magic.
Yeah, it's great so far.
And look, Lance Stroll is back within the team. How's the dynamic in there? How's he doing?
Obviously, of course, we're very happy to have him back. I think after, the operation, it's great that he's bounced back so quickly, and probably with that extra motivation of his home race. But yeah, very happy to be having back.
And I think motivation, the key word there, because he had an operation mere days ago. You would not catch me jumping back in a Formula One car. What does it take to drive, you've driven a Formula One car. What does it take to drive these cars when you're at the peak of your physical performance, let alone recovering and physically having to use your wrist, a contact point with the car?
Yeah, well, I think it just shows the resilience and motivation for him to get back. These cars, and they're not for the faint-hearted, and you need that extra bit of motivation, but he underwent surgery, it all went well, and as I say, we're really happy to have him back.
Yeah, well, here's what the team have had to say as well. Both Aston Martin and Lance Stroll releasing statements heading into this weekend to indicate that they are back in action. The team saying we're pleased to confirm he'll be back, competing in Montreal. Successful medical procedure to resolve the symptoms he's been experiencing. Completed some laps in an old F1 car as well at Paul Ricard earlier this week. He's fit and healthy and excited to compete in front of his home crowd. Lance Stroll also saying, I'm excited to get back behind the wheel with the team for my home Grand Prix this weekend. I was always going to fight hard to be ready to race in front of the Montreal crowd. I'm feeling good after my procedure. Put some laps in at Paul Ricard this week to prepare. Thanks for the support. We'll see you guys this weekend. Aston Martin coming out fighting then for this one.
Let's go. It's his home race, of course, and myself and a lot of the team spent yesterday evening at his favourite cafe.
I saw that
it was
online,
lovely.
yeah.
It was really, really lovely, actually. Some good food, good company, and his spirits are very high.
Great stuff. Let's hear from him, shall we? Here he is in the press conference.
Now, Lance, please, let's start with you. Good to see you. Health update, first of all. How's the wrist?
Thanks. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be home, racing in Montreal, and wrists are feeling good.
Now, we've been told by the team that there was a procedure that took place after the Spanish Grand Prix. Just how confident are you that there won't be a recurrence of the problem that you suffered last time out?
Pretty confident. Should be good.
Why do you say that? I mean, is it because you tested the car at Paul Ricard this week and it passed the test?
Yeah, just because it was bothering me for a few weeks over Imola, Monaco. And then Barcelona was just really, brutal throughout the weekend. And yeah, I got the procedure done and drove this week. And I was feeling pretty good, so I'm confident.
Brutal was the word he used for Spain, and how much pain he was in. Davide, just speak to what Jess was saying earlier, how difficult it is to drive when you've got an underlying niggle or issue.
Yeah, but he needs to race here because he had 6 races in this home Grand Prix, and 5 out of 6 he ended up in the podium, in the points. So he's extremely good Stroll in this place, and we need to remember that sometimes he's not fighting for the top position, and all the attention is on Alonso. But in career already had the 3 podiums, 1 pole position. I mean, he's a very good driver, and I hope to see him shining here in his home race.
Not to put the focus back on Alonso, but of course we saw the first points of the season for Fernando last time out. How much of a boost was that for the 2-time champ?
Of course, I don't think it's any secret that we haven't been where we wanted to be this season, but certainly in the last few races we have seen that step up in performance. Still not quite where we want to be, but much better than what we were. So we're hoping for, of course, double points is always what every team wants, and we're going to be pushing for that as much as possible.
And Jess, F1 Academy, of course, is here this weekend as well. They're making their debut here in Canada. Maya Vug leading the standings 1 point ahead of Dorian Pain, and then rookie Alicia Pomorski also up there in P4. What's impressed you so far in the F1 Academy lineup, and what do you expect from them this weekend?
Well, it's very close, isn't it? Especially at the top of the championship, it is very, very close, and it's great to see those close battles. It's really showcasing the performance of these young girls, and I don't think maybe people were perhaps expecting the competition to be quite so good and how fiercely competitive it is. And, you know, these drivers with the helmets on, you wouldn't know they were females, and the racing is just exceptional. So a new circuit for the girls this weekend. I don't think any of them have been here before, and that normally levels out the playing field quite a lot. And I think that will really pay dividends to those that have worked very hard behind the scenes on the simulator, been putting the hours in. Our young driver, Tina, I know that she's been doing that, so let's hope for her best result of the season so far.
Yeah, good luck to Tina this weekend. I know you're such a mentor for her. Davide, you went on a track walk earlier on. What makes this track unique, special, so difficult, challenging?
Some key places, some corner that made the history of Formula One, some places where there's no room for mistakes. Last chicane, hitting the curb at so high speed, jumping like that with the Formula One, and then the wall of the champions waiting for you if you make any mistakes. So I think it's special because it's so difficult and there's no room for mistakes. It's going to be a wild race. That is the feeling.
I also think that the characteristics of the circuit are really quite different to the circuits that we've been to recently, so could be in for some surprises. I think you have to have high confidence around here for that wall, you know, the final corner. I think it will favour the brave.
And Lawrence, out of these teams, those we haven't perhaps mentioned so far, who do you think is going to go well, who may have a bit of work to do?
Well, aside from Aston, I think that's a large reason why I think Lance wanted to come back. Fernando was saying earlier that, you know, they've run well here and traditionally, so they'll have confidence. I think teams like Williams, Alex Albon's always run well here, did a load of overtakes around here. I think they'll feel like they'll be able to make a step forward after a difficult weekend in Spain. And actually, I think Mercedes would have a really strong weekend. You know, they were so good around here, both in wet and dry conditions last year. Obviously, George got that pole. So I think they're really going to be ones to watch out here.
Yeah, I think a lot expecting them to step back into contention, perhaps take it to Ferrari once again. Jess, thanks so much for your insights.
Thank you very much
for joining us as well. Let's take a look at the schedule then for this Canadian Grand Prix weekend. And here it is, round 10 in Canada. FP1, 1:15 will be building up to the first hour of practice, 4:45 for FP2, 12:15 for FP3, and all the reaction as well from those 3 hours of running coming straight afterwards. Your pre-qualifying show, that's at 3:30. Qualifying here, mighty tight, decided last year by an equal time, just by the fact that George Russell did the time first, put him on pole ahead of Max Verstappen. You don't want to miss qualifying here at the Canadian Grand Prix. Your post-qualifying show straight afterwards, and then Sunday, pre-race show at 1 p.m. for you, a race start for the Canadian Grand Prix of 2 p.m. Post-race show as ever, coming immediately after. And do make sure as well, you head online and go to the website, sign up for F1 Unlocked. You can win prizes and celebrate the launch of F1 the movie there. Make sure you've signed up from the 4th of June. That was a couple of days ago. Hopefully you've done it already. If not, you've got until the 30th of June to do so. Okay, final thoughts then ahead of this Canadian Grand Prix weekend. There's plenty going on below the surface. Lawrence, what are you looking out for and what are your predictions?
Well, I want to see the obvious next step in this battle between Lando and Oscar. I think McLaren are going to be a force around here, so I think it's going to be which one of those comes out on top. I want to see how Max Verstappen responds, as we said earlier. I honestly think we're going to see something pretty special from him. It's just comes down to whether or not the team get the car set up right and he gets comfortable early doors on Friday.
Davide, for you?
I'm looking for the race because last year I would like to remember that we saw the best move and the best overtake of all the season long. Albon took 2 places at the break of the last corner on not 2 average driver, on Ocon and Ricciardo. So it was a mega one, and I look forward to enjoy this race.
Go on then, predictions please.
I think it's going to be a Lando, Oscar, George podium.
That was my prediction.
Oh, sorry.
Go on, I'll say Oscar, Lando, George, just to be different. Davide, for you?
I don't know. I think Norris, we needed him to come back, so I think Norris for everything, for the victory. And then I would like to see Red on podium, so I don't know. They were on podium with Leclerc in the last 2 races. I hope for Hamilton to come back. So.
Well, he loves this track as well. 6 poles, 7 wins around here, equaling Michael Schumacher's record. So you never know, Davide.
Come on.
They know you're here. Ferrari may just pull something out the bag. Thank you both so much for all of your thoughts ahead of this Canadian Grand Prix weekend. Thanks to Mike Seymour as well, asking some of the questions in the pen earlier on today. That's it for weekend warm-up. Consider your weekend well and truly warmed. And it is relatively warm here in Canada as well. Let's hope the sun continues to shine through the weekend, and join us tomorrow for practice. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
This is Formula One in Montreal.
Welcome to Canada.
And the Canadian Grand Prix is underway. Lando Norris leads. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve has got absolutely everything for a thrilling motor race. This is so close. But Verstappen takes first place.
This is the Canadian Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen wins.
Yes, what a race, guys.